Hi everyone, so the season 6 premiere of True Blood aired last night, and of course I'm going to give my honest thoughts, feelings and opinions about it, so let's just get straight into the meat of it. Now I just want to say beforehand that I feel that this episode was a lot better directed than some of the episodes from last season, and maybe that's because Stephen Moyer, who actually plays Bill Compton, actually directed this episode. And I heard that Alan Ball, I don't know if Alan Ball is a director, I think he is, I could be completely wrong, so please correct me. I heard that he was taking a break, obviously because he would have done like 5 years on the run for True Blood, so it's good to kind of like, you know, get some fresh meat sort of thing. And I hope that Stephen Moyer continues to direct more episodes. I know that he's done a couple before for True Blood. It seemed like he knew what he was doing. There weren't, you know, 1,000 like different storylines going on and stuff like that as there seemed to be last season, which personally I felt it subtracted from the main storyline, and that's why I felt it was kind of a bit of a mess. But they seem to tidy things up this episode, so just let's, you know, get straight into it. So first of all, we have Sookie, and I think Sookie's really interesting this episode in that she understands that she has undergone so many changes purely because of the circumstances she's found herself in, situations she's had to be in like for work and helping people out and stuff like that. And I feel like Sookie always started out as just like a waitress. She enjoyed her job. She wasn't, I don't think she's particularly ambitious, but that's not to say that's bad. I just think she's very comfortable where she is, and she would like to have certain things, but she's just very happy being where she is in her job with the people that are around her. And of course her life was kind of turned upside down when she met Bill in season 1, and since then she's volunteered to help out the vampires and all, you know, other species in their business and stuff like that. And I think that after having spent so much time around them and like got involved with so many people, that she's changed as a person. And I think the theme of this week's episode was changes and personal changes, and I think we see a hell of a lot of different character changes, and I hope that this season challenges like who we think people are, because I totally think that will completely change up, you know, the sort of formula, and it would introduce new angles to characters and stuff like that. And I would just love to see people change, people undergo character development. I think this is a great opportunity to see people grow as people and as characters. So yeah, back onto Sookie. So it starts off where Sookie and Eric are basically escaping from Bill. They end up on this beach sort of thing, and Jessica asks Sookie, do you still love Bill? And she goes, yeah, because like she said, basically it's in her blood. And I don't know whether that means because she's physically drank Bill's blood, but I know she does have a very strong connection to him sort of thing. And she says, but at the same time, even though she does love Bill, it is time to let him go, because she said that she felt him die sort of thing when he was like resurrected as Lilith or Billith or whatever. So I think she's been incredibly strong in terms of that, and I really do like this about her. I always thought book Sookie was very judgmental. I haven't read the last book in Charlene Harris's novels, but I've never liked book Sookie purely because I feel she's very judgmental, but I've been a lot warmer towards Anna Paquin's rendition on screen sort of thing. I feel that when Sookie's got something to focus on, that you can get along with her better, and I actually hope that I do feel myself getting along with Sookie more this season, because I think sometimes I've been a bit harsh towards her because of my experiences with the book version of her. I think now True Blood is completely deviated from, you know, the source material. It still draws elements and like basic plot lines and stuff like that, but I feel that now it's an entity of its own. We can like look at the characters differently. We can look at them as like completely different people and try not to put a subjective perspective on it. With Sookie, I feel like now she understands that she understands that she's gotten way too far in over her head. She's just tired, I think, of doing the things that she does all the time. She doesn't really have any time for herself anymore. She has to give it up a lot for other people, and a lot of the time it's not even voluntary. Like, she's just involved in the business of other people purely because she decided to help people out maybe a couple of years ago, and it's really, you know, got on her back. It's really bit her back sort of thing. So when, you know, Eric walks her home and stuff like that, after she takes Jessica to Bill, and she says to Bill, you know, just leave, and then Jessica obviously takes Bill's side and says, no, I want to stay with Bill. When Eric walks her home after that, she says to Eric, you know, like, thank you for giving me back the deed to my house, which he does. And I thought that was a very good move of him. I thought it was very brave of him. I think that was the right thing to do, because I don't think he should have a hold over her. I mean, I'm not an Eric or Sookie shipper by any means, but I think they work better together when they understand each other. And I think this is something that we really got in that month, where they do understand and respect each other. And she just says, look, you know what, I need my own space. That's why I'm going to rescind your invitation. And she does that, and, you know, he's like, oh, goodbye, Sookie Stackhouse, whatever. I think that's pretty much it for Sookie. Let me just look at my notes. And then we see her at the end of the episode when she's sleeping, and like that piece of paper that she took to one of the fairies that she found under her bed, and it says something about the vampire warlord who killed her parents, that starts glowing sort of thing. Then that's all we see of Sookie this episode. Then we move on to Bill. I know a lot of people are gonna kill me for this, but I actually do like Bill as a character. Now, last season he was a complete douchebag, and I think the whole religion thing was another reason to hate him, because I don't think religion makes people bad, not at all, but this religion was a brainwashing mechanism, and I think they never really gave it another side. They never like showed another side to it, like it was good or it helped the vampire sort of thing find peace, whatever. It was purely a destructive force. Now, as such, it turned Bill into a destructive mindset, and I think that was really such a shame, because in season 4 I actually liked him a whole lot more than I had in seasons 1, 2 and 3 put together, and he showed some promise this episode. But of course, at the end of the episode he gets like possessed by Lilith again sort of thing, so the aftermath of his power, of his experience with Lilith getting like fused with her, whatever, is that now he has powers. He can't be staked, so he tries to stake him. He has telekinetic powers apparently, and I think he can fly, and I don't think he burns in fire either, as seen when he comes out of the building where the religion headquarters were, and it was on fire and he wasn't harmed at all. And I think he shows a very paternal side towards Jessica, and I really do like, the parental relationship between Bill and Jessica. I think it's really, really sweet, and I completely love it. Honestly, I really hope they give him some slack as a character and as a person, because it's like he's always the one who gets chosen out for villainy, now that we found out that he basically screwed Sookie over when he had like the deal with Queen Sophia a couple of seasons ago. And okay, yeah, it was wrong what he did and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, in season 4, I really think, when he became king of Louisiana, he did show a lot of changes. He can be a very caring person, and yeah, he did screw up and sort of things like that, but I don't think he deserves all the character treatment he gets. I think they should write a storyline for him where things are just going completely normally, he can be completely happy, or he can have some happiness in his life. Like, I really would like that for Bill right now, because I just think there are other characters out there who are a lot worse than he is. And while he has shown his completely bad side, he's also shown, his nicer side sort of thing. So I don't think he's a good person or a bad person. I just think he's a vampire living in the situation he lives in, and he makes stupid mistakes sometimes. And then we have Eric. Now, honestly, I really did not like Eric this episode. Don't get me wrong, Alexander Skarsgård is gorgeous. That, I just think the way he's been treating Pam he's honestly, and I really don't want people to go mad at me, but Eric's kind of a douchebag now. And I understand that he's under a lot of stress and stuff like that, and he does have a lot of things to deal with, but the way he's been treating Pam is completely ridiculous. I mean, Pam is like the one person who has always been there for him. Like, yeah, I mean, they might have had their arguments and stuff like that, but she even said to him, like, I spent 100 years with you. I spent my entire life with you. I learned from you sort of thing. Like, I shared everything with you, and you turn around and you lie to me. Like, what is up with that? And basically he says to her, oh, if you're gonna be my way, then get out of my way sort of thing. And it was like he turns to Nora, and I understand he turns to her because Nora has intricate knowledge of what's going on with the Book of Lilith and this whole religion thing, but I feel that he's much nicer towards Nora, and it's like, no offense to you, but Nora completely screwed you over. She led you into this crazy religion. She completely supported it. She was monstrous. She was really bad, and she even said at one, excuse my language, she even said fuck Godric. That was a big deal. That was like, Pam would never ever say that. I mean, she has too much love and respect for Eric to ever like cut him that deeply, and I really don't like the way he's treating her. And I just think what he did, of course, for Sookie was nice in giving her house back. A lot of people kind of think that Eric is really, he's a good guy and he's like a fan favorite sort of thing purely because of how good looking he is, but if you look at what he does, he's never been a good person. I don't think the show tried to do that. I think the show understood that he's not meant to be like a good person. He's meant to be a selfish person, and he's a very selfish person. And I'm not saying that as a criticism, I'm saying that as a fact. He's meant to be a selfish person, but now I think they tried to like shift the light on over in him sort of thing to make him appear to be like the good guy in a room full of bad guys sort of thing. And honestly, I'm really not buying it at all. I think he does have his moments of selflessness. Again, like I said, giving Sookie her house back and stuff like that. I think maybe he's just getting really tired. Like, maybe he just understands that things are escalating at a really bad pace and things aren't working out for anyone, and I think he just wants to get things over and done with. And I think that he doesn't really have time to sort of sit there and get involved with Sookie sort of thing. He does have feelings for her, and I think it's his way of protecting her. So that's, I really do want his relationship with Pam to get back to normal sort of thing, because I really do think Eric and Pam do work well together as father-daughter sort of thing. So yeah, then we have Pam, and I really do like Pam, but I think maybe she's a bit too far over her head sort of thing. I don't think she knows how to handle Eric's behaviour towards her, and I think it's really freaking her out. She's bursting into tears, she's threatening people, she's not listening to sound advice, like Tara basically says, you're too busy going after an unavailable asshole to give me a chance sort of thing. And that's completely true. Like, I completely 100% agree and stuff like that. And because Eric is treating Pam like a punching bag, Pam's maybe going to treat Tara like a punching bag, which I really don't think is fair. But I think Pam has a lot of anger inside her sort of thing. I think because she's so cold emotionally, I think whenever anything bad happens to her sort of thing, she doesn't really know how to handle it well, and it really gets to her, which is sad, but you know, it is what it is. And then of course, a SWAT team, whatever they raid, Fantasia, I think she's the owner of it or something like that. Now that Eric's away on business, they're basically saying you have to close your business because vampires aren't allowed to have establishments or businesses anymore according to the new law that the governor imposes. And Tara gets shot by bullets, and I know that the bullets have UV light in them, I think, or maybe that's later on, but yeah, she gets shot, so I hope Tara doesn't die. That would be really awful. And I really love like this sort of relationship between her and Tara. I think Tara kind of tells it real. And speaking of Tara, I really do enjoy Tara now as like a vampire, because I think, I don't know, like being turned into a vampire just makes you more like cold as a person, but she really seems to have her head screwed on this past season. I think Tara's been like screwed over enough by so many different people now that she kind of is learning how to deal with people in a lot better way. I think she's still got her like sort of her feistiness about her, and it doesn't detract from her personality either. And I really would like to see a real storyline for Tara that doesn't involve her relationship with someone else, because in season 2 she was really screwed over when she, you know, she was manipulated by Marianne and stuff like that. The whole thing with eggs, the whole thing with her mother. I think now it's time that Tara got her own storyline that was connected to Eric and Pam and Nora maybe, etc, etc. And it's good to see that she's still not like, you know, running around after Jason. She does realise now that, you know, I just don't think there's anything there for them at all. So yeah, completely loving Tara. Then we have Nora. Honestly, I didn't like Nora last season, but I think she became a fan favourite because she's, I don't know, maybe she's very beautiful, she's British, she's very elegant, she's sort of like an English Rose sort of thing. She was brainwashed. I think a lot of people liked her as well because she was sleeping with Eric, and anytime Eric gets naked, people love it. Just couldn't bring myself to like her, but I did get a good vibe off her this episode, so that was really good. Maybe she's gonna do something to Sookie, I don't know. I mean, she said to Eric like, now I know your weakness, which is Sookie, and Eric said to her like, you know, don't screw with me sort of thing, stay away from Sookie. So I'm interested to see what Nora's gonna do, and I really would like to see more of her in a positive light, because I do think she has the potential to be a really, really great character. And then we have Jessica. At first, I really did like Jessica. I think she was really cutesy, but honestly, this whole thing with Hoyt, forgive me for this, but I think she became such a bitch. And I understand that, you know, she doesn't have to be with Hoyt, she doesn't want to whatsoever, but I just think sometimes that her behaviour can come off as very, like, arrogant. This whole thing with, like, her and Jason, I do not think Jason and her work well together at all. They're both very immature characters, and that's not a criticism, again, it's just a fact. I think when they handle things, sometimes it can be in the heat of the moment, but I think she really broke down this episode. She was like, you know, she wanted to be with Bill, and I think her loyalty is towards Bill. Even though people have been nice to her and stuff like that, I think Bill he has done some pretty bad things. Even when he was, you know, brainwashed by the religion sort of thing, he was fatherly towards her, and I think really, considering she never really had a father figure in her life that's been positive, I think she has a freedom of self and she's explored that. I think now she's really beginning to value what Bill has to offer, and that is a fatherliness. She's really attached to that side of him, which is why she chooses to stay with him, which I completely love. Now I hope the Lilith infected Bill does not hurt Jessica at all. I really would hate that. I really want to see more of Bill and Jessica together, because I think they're so adorable together as, like, you know, father and daughter sort of thing. Then we have Jason. I think Jason's always interesting. He's had such an array of storylines about him. Like, he's had this whole werepanther thing, then he was kidnapped by Crystal's community back in season 3, I think, or something like that. Then, you know, the whole thing in season 1 where people were accusing him of killing people, and then he was in the Fellowship of the Sun in season 2. He's had a whole lot going on for him. And now I think Jason, like Jessica, is seeing like different aspects of life and stuff like that. Even though he's still really goofy, he does have an understanding like about how things work, I think, now. And I think he's definitely a hardened character. Don't think he's as vulnerable as he was, but I don't think he's uninformed either. And just because he doesn't support sort of like the vampire presence in the human world, I don't think that makes him a bad character. I just think that means he has an opinion based on experiences he has. You know, he's seen like the worst of the worst, so I completely respect his opinion. Of course, he's a total badass when it comes to getting things done, which I love about Jason. I don't know whether he's gonna grow up in terms of his like emotions and stuff like that. I mean, he didn't go running around after Jessica when she was crying at the beach and stuff like that. Maybe he was just irritated. He's very irritated. I'm not really a huge fan of like romance storylines and stuff like that, but I really hope that Jason maybe finds a nice girl and can settle down sometime, because I just really think he deserves that. And he hitchhikes and gets a ride from this guy who I personally thought was Niall, and I don't know if it was Niall. There was some speculation that it was Wollo, which was interesting because Wollo is apparently Lilith's progeny, and Wollo is the vampire that killed Sookie and Jason's parents. And, you know, basically Jason ends up telling this guy all about his family and stuff like that. And I do think it's Niall. I really do think it's Niall. I do not think it's Wollo at all. But yeah, this guy basically says that he's got family in Bontomp and stuff like that. And then Jason's like, oh, who is it? And he's like, oh, you wouldn't know them. There's not many of them left. And I think that, you know, that is Sookie's grandfather, which would also be Jason's grandfather. But then basically Jason says something about Wollo, and then the guy in the car says Wollo's never going to stop going after Sookie. And Jason goes, hang on, how do you know my sister's name? And then he basically assumes that the old guy is Wollo, and the old guy just disappears off in the car, leaves it to crash, I think, or something like that. I don't think it's going to crash, or maybe it is going to crash, but I don't think Jason's going to be hurt. I've never been a fan of the fairies in the book. I'm really just not interested. I think it's interesting as a part of Sookie's heritage, but personally, I just do not think it's particularly interesting. They never really did anything with it in the books. Like, it was just like, oh, like, it was just like a side storyline sort of thing. It was just long and drawn out and boring and didn't really do anything for me. So unless they completely change it up and make it really super interesting, I'm not really bothered about what happens to Niall or the fairies. Personally, I just could not care less about that sort of thing. And then we have Sam, and it was really sad because Sam saw Luna die. And I don't know if Luna's actually dead, but I know that there was going to be a character death in this season, and a lot of people were speculating it was going to be Eric, purely because there's some sort of like debate whether he was going to return to True Blood next year. But I think maybe that Luna might have been the character death. I did like Luna. She was very, you know, protective sort of thing. She was a good person, I guess. I don't really have a lot of feelings about Luna, honestly. She's just like another one of those characters that I feel is a side character, and she's really only relevant when it comes to Sam sort of thing. So yeah, I'm not really feeling Luna all that much, but it was sad to see her die. Of course, he runs off with Emma, and now it feels like Sam's on the run. So he goes back to the bar, and Lafayette's there, like, you know, and he says to Lafayette, you know, you can't, you know, you never saw me tonight. You cannot say that you saw me because now I'm on the run sort of thing. And maybe it's because I think last season Sam helped Luna to basically screw over the vampire religion sort of thing, so maybe they're on the lookout for him. So that was particularly sad. I do like Sam. He's very sweet, but I think he's kind of like, you know, the guy next door. I think he's completely friend-zoned, and I don't know what's going to happen in terms of him and Sookie. I don't think that potential relationship is non-existent anymore, but I think, you know, they've both been doing like their own thing, that they don't really spend that much time together anymore, and I'm really curious how Sookie still has her job, but whatever. Then we actually have a new character called the Governor, and basically he's this like human politician. They're filming him on TV, and he's saying that he does not support the vampire presence in the human world, so everyone's like cheering and stuff like that. He meets up with a representative of the Japanese True Blood company. They manufacture the True Blood. He's in like this old factory, this old bottling plantation. The woman's name, the representative's name, I think is Miss Suzuki, and she basically says, you know, what do you want, why are you here? And he's like, I'm gonna offer you this facility to continue manufacturing True Blood. She's like, you know, why? He's like, basically because he says he wants the vampires to be under control again and not to feed on human beings, but I think there's gonna be something about him that they're not quite telling us. I think he's gonna be a bad guy, because, you know, in True Blood you can spot a bad guy from a mile away. It's not exactly rocket science anymore, but he says basically that he's gonna give the True Blood company that bottling factory to continue making True Blood until they re-established their own factory because, you know, it got blown up last season, I think. She's like, okay, cool. And he says this to be a secret partnership. I don't want my face to be anywhere near this operation sort of thing. And she's like, okay. And he says basically he's also doing it because of the revenue, like, you know, the financial perks sort of thing of the whole deal. And she's like, okay, cool. So that is that. Then we have Alcide. Alcide has become the new Packmaster. He killed the old Packmaster, thank God. The old Packmaster was such, excuse my French, he was such a dick. Like, oh my gosh, he was just complete asshole. I really didn't like him. So thankfully Alcide, I think Alcide's weird, like he's not a main character, but he's not like a side character. I think it's like a separate storyline sort of thing where it kind of like comes together with the main storyline sometimes. But it's kind of weird because him and Sookie don't really interact anymore, and it's kind of like, okay, then why is he on the show? I understand that Sookie is not the main character really anymore. There's a lot of main characters, but surely what's going on with her is more or less always like the main business of the show sort of thing. So to keep it relevant, surely he should have an interaction with like the main storyline of the show kind of thing to kind of make it fit in a little bit better. I understand that he represents like the werewolf side of the show because obviously True Blood isn't just about vampires anymore, it's about shifters and fairies and werewolves and all that kind of stuff. But it's, yeah, like, so he basically leads his pack off in a run sort of thing. And then we didn't really see much in this episode. Basically there's this girl called Danielle who's like, oh, I'm yours sort of thing whenever you need me. And I think she's his girlfriend. She's called Ricky. She's like, oh, basically says you can screw whoever you want to sort of thing. But I think, and she literally says, I'm your number one bitch. Thinking about this before, like, it's a bit degrading to refer to yourself as a bitch, like not a lady, but because they're werewolves. I think she means bitch as in like a female werewolf sort of thing, so maybe that's that. I hope that Alcide isn't just eye candy at this point because that'd be really disappointing. I do like Alcide, I think he's interesting, but the treatment he gets is kind of weird. Like, he's just a character that comes in every now and again, and he was seen as a potential sort of like love interest last season, I guess, or maybe he was just screwing around with Sookie. I think they kissed and stuff like that. Sookie, I mean, Alcide is just Alcide. There's nothing really to say about him. Then we have Andy, Terry, and Arlene. Now, I really like Terry. I think everyone likes Terry. Terry's very sweet, bless him. Andy, I think Andy was one of those like very small side characters back in season 1 where he was a detective working on the case about who was killing all the people, which was obviously Renee. But now he's got his own storyline. I just think it's completely irrelevant, to be honest. I think it does represent the fairy side of things, considering he does have 4 fairy children now from whoever it was he slept with last season. Like, just very odd. Like, I just, there's nothing really compelling about Andy. I mean, he has his funny moments and stuff like that, but he's just Andy, isn't he? Like, but maybe they've gone too far in his storylines now. Like, they've given him too much screen time to basically tell him to go away sort of thing. So, I don't know, like, Andy's just Andy. He has these 4 fairy children and he's basically, oh, I don't know how to be a dad, and Arlene is like, oh, well, it's the best thing in the world and whatever. And then he ends up, like, you know, changing one of the nappies or diapers, as the Americans would say it, and then he wakes up in the middle of the night and they've grown rapidly. Like, they were like babies a couple of hours ago and now they're like, you know, maybe 4 years old, 3-4 years old or something like that. And he's like, what? So that's interesting to see. So yeah, he's got fairy kids, lol. But that's weird, because like, if his half fairy children grow really fast, and Sookie's got like an 8th, shouldn't she have also grown a bit faster? Or maybe it's diluted enough that that doesn't happen. I'm not entirely sure. Terry is nice, he's sweet. I think Arlene's a bit weird. Like, in the book, I know she's a complete bigot, and I hope she doesn't turn out to be like that in this season. I'm really still irritated they did not. I don't think they really covered the whole thing where she was seeing Renee in her dreams and she was having visions of him and stuff like that. That is really odd. And that's kind of upsetting because I really kind of, I don't know, like, sometimes I really like Arlene, sometimes I just think she's like, meh, whatever, she's just there. And I know that I said, you know, it's a problem when all these like small characters get screen time of their own and it detracts from what the show is trying to tell. But I think maybe if they put Arlene somewhere else and they didn't group her with Andy and Terry all the time, maybe she'd have a bit more of an opportunity to shine as a character. Then we have Lafayette. He was literally on screen for like 2 minutes, if that, and he was holding down the bar sort of thing. He was basically holding down the bar because Sam was gone. That was sweet, I guess. I really do want to see more of Lafayette because I really do like Lafayette as a character. Nelson Ellis is such a beautiful man as well. Like, he's such a gorgeous man to look at. I'm not attracted to him, but he's a very beautiful man to look at. I will give him that. Yeah, I just hope they kind of expand more on like Lafayette's sort of brutal powers or whatever. They kind of like let that fall flat where, you know, Jesus died and then Lafayette was like, meh. He just seems now content to be like, you know, a psychic or something like that. Like, I just found that very weird. They didn't really go anywhere with that, which was odd, considering they spent so much time and emotion building that up. So yeah, I hope something happens with that. And then of course we have Lilith. I hope this whole Lilith thing it does present a lot of opportunities, and you can like pretty much manipulate Lilith as a plot device however you want, you know, to create more interesting storylines and stuff like that. But honestly, she's just pretty much the villain. I'm interested to see her relationship with Warlow and how that whole turned out. But at the moment she's like, you know, busy possessing Bill, and I don't know what she wants with Bill. Maybe she wants the vampire superiority and over humans and stuff like that. I don't know. As for Warlow, obviously he killed Sookie's parents, and apparently he's Lilith's progeny, which is interesting. I think this season is when we discover more about Warlow. This is what it's going to be about, I think, pretty much. I hope so. So, that's it pretty much for this episode of True Blood. I'm going to be back next week, same time, doing an episode 2 review. So yeah, I hope you liked it. I'm going to try and be a bit more fair in terms of my reviews, definitely. Because I think last year I came off as a bit harsh, but I just think personally, in my very personal opinion, and I completely respect if you loved the show last year, but I just think last year's show was kind of a hot mess. And I hope that this is where they kind of get True Blood back on track and they take this storyline, which does have a lot of potential, and use it to further characters, to further events, to further themes and stuff like that. And that'd be really, really, really cool if they did that, because honestly, True Blood is one of my favourite TV shows, and it always has been one of my favourite TV shows. But if it was between True Blood or Game of Thrones, I would pick Game of Thrones, which is kind of sad because I used to just like live for True Blood, but now it's just like, it's nice, I'm a fan of it, but it's not anything that, you know, I'd drop everything for anymore. So yeah, that was my review, and check back next week.